Hello and welcome. This is Linda. I am excited about this new series. This is for beginners, of course. It's simple, but it's also for those of us who have stitched a very long time to broaden our scope. It's for those who have often told me that they cannot envision or they cannot stitch intuitively, that their pieces don't talk to them, that their brain doesn't tell them anything about what should come next or what looks good together. Uh, those who say they have no such thing as a muse, that if they do, theirs is mute and doesn't talk to them. When we take the time to play with and expand our library of skills and knowledge and use of different colors, textures, and moods in our creation, we open up not only doors, but we open up all the windows too. And we see views and have pathways that we never knew that we had available to us. Now, this series is going to cover 50 different stitchery styles. Some of these are going to be very different, and some are going to be simple variations on something else. So as you go through these with me, try to really understand what you're changing and how it's developing the mood or the style of the piece. We are going to work the same design over and over and over. When we don't change the design, but we change the style of the design, is when we start learning what color, texture, and mood do for us in our creative process. Sometimes we get thinking, well, if I had totally, had a whole different shaped flower, it would have been different. Yes, it would have been different, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you would have learned anything, or that you would have increased your knowledge or skill of design. So let's play with the same simple design. Now, this is my design, and I'm going to encourage you to use something very much like it. But of course, you can draw your own. But this is a half sheet of just regular printer paper. It's half of it. And I have marked off an area that is 6 by 8, basically. As you can see, this fits into there. It will frame down to a 5 by 7 very nicely. And just draw the elements in there that you want. Now, this particular flower element here is a little bit bigger than this one, but not too much. And of course, you can make it smaller or bigger, however you want to. But in this particular design, it's very easy. This first project we're doing is in the stitchery style. We're going to call it a pastel palette. All right, a pastel palette. Now, pastels, they're soft. They're muted colors. And they give us a gentle and soothing mood. That's what happens when we use pastels. When we use a pastel palette, it doesn't mean that we can't have a little bit of a brighter, denser, or darker piece, like I have here in the flower center. But it does mean that it can only be a small embellishment. It cannot overplay the pastels. It just needs to complement them. But when we look at the piece, just look at it, the first thing that hits us is its pastel, its soft pinks and greens and blues. And that's our palette. And so when we look at it, we think soft, gentle, soothing. A little girl. Reminds us of a little girl or a baby. Something we might decorate in a baby's room or a little girl's room. Something like that. Or if we have a room in our house, our decor is very soft and mellow, we might put that on a pillow front, something like that. it's just soft, and its mood is very soothing. This is a pastel palette. The biggest piece of fabric you will use in any of these, of course, is your background fabric. I am going to use a piece of batting on all of mine. That gives me a nice foundation piece to sew on. You can use whatever you want fabric-wise, but if you want to know how I played this out, there are 6 fabrics in this piece. Now I chose these fabrics, and in my next video I'm going to show you from scratch how I begin the next one and how I put my choices together and then work out of that. But for the first one, when you choose, there are 6 different fabrics in this. There's the background fabric, the main flower fabric, the embellishment fabric, the 2 smaller flower fabric, the stem fabric, and the leaf fabric. 6 different fabrics. They play together very nicely. They flow together. They all have the pastel look except the bolder piece inside. Okay? The colors of thread that you use, the same thing. Because I had a little bolder center, I accentuated with the color thread that was in the peachy orange flowers on this flower. Okay? But it blends in very well. This color thread also brings this bold blue fabric here, tones it back in to the whole, makes it have a sense of it belongs there. It mixes well. The leaves are done in a very light pastel green, and does very well. The stem is done in a little bit darker green. The flowers are sewn in a pink. There's 2 little tiny beads here and a little smidgen of lace right there. And of course I chose to use a button because I had one in the right colors and it had the flower pattern on it. When I stitched the background, I used tone on tone, which kept the pastel look very, very even on that background. And that helps to keep the whole piece into that pastel palette. So I thought this through before I used it. This is why I call this sometimes vision stitching instead of slow stitching, because I've thought this process through all the way. And I will be doing that on each piece because I want to show the different styles. Remember, this first one is pastel palette. That's our first style, our pastel palette. How do we blend this pastel colors together and what? Now, can you use any pastel color? Of course you can. Use whatever you want to stay in the pastels, okay? Fight the urge to splash color everywhere. A little of it goes a long way. I wouldn't want to have brought that back down into here with lots of color or out in the leaves with lots of color. That would have totally ruined the pastel palette. So keep it to where when you look at the whole, it just reads as a pastel. Okay. Now, I'm acting as your muse in the sense that I'm telling you what mood you want to have, what palette and style you want to go with, basically what colors you want to use, whether you want it bright or soft or so forth. So I'm acting as your muse during these 50 different series that we're going to do here, but it's going to help you to understand each of these styles and learn how to reproduce them yourself in your style. All right. So again, it'd be nice if you kind of keep along in the same thing that I'm doing, but if you want to draw you a different design, that's fine. Just keep it very simple. I have very simple lines here, very easy curves, simple lines. Nothing is hard to stitch. Now, as far as the stitching is concerned, I have used straight, just simply running stitches on the background. This is stitched in a blanket stitch, this flower. This flower is done in an overcast or whip stitch. This flower is done in an overcast or whip stitch. This is done in a pistol stitch. If you don't know a pistol stitch, you can simply do a long running stitch and then just put a little French knot on the end. That'll suffice. Okay, stem is just overcast or whip stitch. The leaves are just straight stitching around. No complicated embroidery on this. Okay, we're going to use a few little different stitches, but basically we're keeping this very simple because it's not about the complicated embroidery. It's about learning style. It's about learning to design, change, let color, texture, and mood tell you, show you what it needs. And as you go along and you do these, I guarantee you, you do 50 of these in a different style, you're going to understand how to create anything you want to create, because you're going to know how to get the colors right, how to get the texture combinations right, and what mood you want to set. Okay? All right. I hope you'll join me with this series, 50 Unique Stitchery Styles. And we're going to be doing these a little long. I don't know if I'll do one a week or how often, but anyway, I will complete all 50 of them. And we'll just work them along. And as you can see, there's nothing really difficult about it. So you pick your pastel colors, you pick your design, okay, or follow mine, and let's do this together. And let's see what we can learn by learning these 50 different stitchery styles. All right, till next time, let's stay stitch happy. Bye-bye.